to pledge allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those who have cell phones, I appreciate it if you either mute them or turn them off, please. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the payroll warrants for November 24th and December 1st of 2017.
Make a motion that we accept those, the payroll warrants of the November 24th and the December 1st of 2017.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Thank you. Accounts payable warrants for November 28th and December 5th of 2017.
Move the accounts payable warrants for November 28th and December 5th, 2017.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. Approval of the minutes for November 21st and November 28th. Do we have any corrections, omissions? I didn't find anything.
Move the minutes
Anybody
as
else?
presented.
Okay, I'll second it. All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. Tonight we have special presentations from EMS department. Toby, you're on.
Hi, thank you for coming. I'd first like to take this opportunity and recognize 3 providers. Can I have Anita, Tanya, and Megan up front? In 2016, we sent 3 providers that are in your community to the advanced level of EMS. And basically, there are 4 different levels in the state of Maine. There's an EMR level, there's an EMT level, there's an advanced level, and there's a paramedic level. All 3 of these providers spent a lot of time on their own with professional development, advancing to the next tier. I can rightfully say today that all 3 have successfully passed their national advanced level. The difference between an EMT and an advanced, you can start IVs, you can defibrillate people and put them on a cardiac monitor, and you can give some life-saving medications. So I'd like to thank the 3 of you for your job well done.
Congratulations.
The next award I'd like to give out is to Wendy Williams. Wendy, can I have you come forward? Those that don't know, Wendy Williams has been the Deputy Chief of EMS prior to my arrival here. She served as Deputy Chief for 12 years. And over the last couple of months, Wendy has decided to step down as Deputy Chief and concentrate on other things. She's still staying with us as a paramedic and a provider, and we want to recognize Wendy tonight for her years of service. And the presentation is to Wendy Williams in recognition to your 12 years of dedication and commitment to the Wiscasset Ambulance Service as Deputy Chief.
Thank you. Okay, we have no committee appointments. We have no public hearings. The next on our agenda is public comment on non-agenda items. At each regular selectman meeting, there will be time to vote into any resident, taxpayer, or in the case of an organization, an authorized representative of a resident or taxpayer of the town of Wiscasset to address the selectmen regarding any item that is not on the agenda for that meeting. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person and 30 minutes for the section. Is there any public comment? Yes, Susan. I'm sorry, Pam, I didn't see you stand.
Susan Blackton. I'm distressed by the Christmas lighting downtown. For many years, the town has had only white lights along Main Street and Route 1 to the Common. And there, at the top of the Common, is our beautiful tree with its multicolored lights celebrating the season of love. The combination of the purity of the white lights and the glory of the multi-lighted tree has brought people to town to join us in harmony. Our village has been celebrated in magazines, newspapers, and television for the joyous Yuletide decorations of white lights in all the little trees. The businesses have sustained this. This year, the white lights have been interspersed with colored lights with no rhyme or reason. It's too bad, and it's ugly. Our town has lost its style, and I can only hope that next year we can regain it.
Thank you. Yes, Pam, you're next.
So I have actually written a letter to the Board of Selectmen, but I wanted to, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Is the microphone on? I don't know if the microphone's on.
Push the red
Is the
button.
microphone working?
Push the red button on the bottom. Yeah, at the top of it, so you can vote.
Yeah,
I think it is.
Try it again.
It wasn't working before we set up.
Not hearing it. Should I use my outdoor voice?
Yes.
Let me just, I
Your
want to.
grown-up voice.
My grown-up voice. I'm going to first just hand a copy of the letter I have written to the Board of Selectmen. I did want to come and read it to you to make sure it was heard in public comment in a public venue. So, to the members of the Board of Selectmen, I'm here today presenting my opinion from multiple positions. I am a voting citizen of the town of Wiscasset. I've spent 5 years on the Wiscasset Budget Committee, 6 years on the Board of Selectmen, and I am the director of the Wiscasset Public Library. I'm coming to you with a wide experience of the town's budget and the actions that follow when an item is arbitrarily cut from that budget. I understand the pressures of trying to control a budget that causes angst for some citizens, and I understand the work of trying to trim from budgets to lower the tax rate. Finding economies and efficiencies that allow for that trimming is very hard work. What I do not understand is cutting an entire budget line that passes by a very strong majority every year at the annual vote and not allowing citizens a voice through their votes. I also don't understand turning down a budget request that hasn't even been presented to you yet. You don't know what you're saying no to. We haven't given you a number. Some points I'd like you to keep in mind and consider carefully as you make your decisions. Wiscasset Public Library is the oldest continuous circulation library in the entire country. No other library has been open this long, not in continuous circulation. It's been serving citizens since 1799. That is 218 years of undisturbed service. This is a strong piece of history for the town to protect and in which this town can take pride. Several years ago, the library was receiving $140,000 from the town of Wiscasset to help fund operations. Over the years, library requests have been reduced through strict economies, grants raised to install more efficient equipment, and the trustees' work at managing the endowment for growth and sustainability. The library works very hard to continue to find savings and reductions. Because of these efforts, last year the request was for $62,250, less than half, considerably less than half than we used to ask. The library trustees are currently working on a budget for next year and are working very hard to find a number that remains sustainable. The library request for funding passes every year by a strong majority. The people have spoken year after year. They want, support, and appreciate the library in town. The library, as a quasi-municipal entity, provides a service for the town for which the town is not responsible for fully funding. Services are provided at a lesser cost to the citizens. Leaving the library budget request on the town warrant shows the voters in town that you are listening to their wishes and respecting their right to vote. Removing the library request from the warrant is a false economy that would provide no real savings. The library and its patrons can submit a petition to hold the vote. The vote will almost assuredly pass, as it always does, and the projected savings will not be realized. Also, forcing the item to be allowed through petition will become yet another piece of bad press for a town that has seen far too much of that in the past few years. I ask you to please consider the probable results and consequences to any decision about funding library and do the right thing to let the voters decide.
Thank you, Pam. Yes, Steve?
Steve Christensen, I'm gonna start off, I got 5 minutes to speak, so I got a couple of comments and a question.
Okay.
My first thing is this form right here where it says, at each of these selectmen's meeting, a time will be devoted to any resident, taxpayer, or in the case of an organization, an authorized representative of a resident or a taxpayer of the town of Wiscasset to speak. We need to start asking that question when we get people up here to speak, because I believe that we have get some people that come up here that aren't any of those things that are on this list, a resident, taxpayer, and an organization representative. I don't believe a shop owner is an organization. We have some shop owners that I know that live out of town, and I understand they pay the taxes here. The ones that don't, I think you guys have got to look and say, you know, do you fit this criteria? Because it says it right here. This has gone on for a long time. It's been allowed to happen. I believe that there's been people that have been up here to speak in this forum, and then not any of those. So my statement is, a rule is a rule, the way you've got it written here. The second comment that I have is, and I'm going to quickly go over this. Stop wasting taxpayers' money on the MDOT lawsuits. We have other things that we have an obligation to maintain, such as a town clock, maybe White's Island footbridges. That's my comment. Now this is my question. Throughout the downtown of Wiscasset, we have a lot of sidewalks. And those sidewalks were put in with taxpayers' money over the course of the year. There are numerous private residences and businesses who continually have this shrubbery and crap that infringes upon the sidewalk. It's eyeball level to you. You're going down the street. You know, there are sidewalks that you can't walk up. And I would be more than happy to walk anybody around and show them to you that they're like that. We've got down on the corner by Treats, there's been 2 bags of compost sitting on the sidewalk all summer long, right on the edge of the sidewalk. Now people are going to walk around this stuff. You've got encroachment of people, private citizens, growing shrubs, blocking signs, parking spaces, your vision at intersections. It's ridiculous. We have some people who think that it's okay to park on the sidewalk. You know, so you got all this stuff going on, you know. And my point is the onus of that is not the town to go around and clean up this stuff. I think the responsibility is for the owners to do it. You know, it looks shabby, and I believe that some of it poses a safety issue. The owners of these businesses and residences should either A, get a notice to remove the obstacles. It isn't right. I mean, like I say, I can take you around and I can show you spots that you can't even walk down. It's a sidewalk, people. So my only question is this: should we do about it? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Please state your name.
I'm Colleen Gillum, resident, and participate in the Public Safety Advisory Committee. And I just wanted to speak to last meeting, there was a petition presented regarding eliminating the SRO position, school resource officer position at the school. And then it was also proposed in the budget as a potential reduction. And I just wanted to point out that, first of all, I think that position is really important. My daughter came home today telling me about an event where the police officers had to intervene at the elementary school as recently as today. The other piece is that the SRO position is an important line of communication between the school and the town, and it seems like we need more of those lines of communication. And so I would worry that we would be losing that line of communication if we were to eliminate that particular position. And I do hope to go to the school board and make the same statement at their next meeting too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else who would care to make a comment? Yes, sir.
Actually, sorry, Nick Dalton, after what Steve Christensen said.
Excuse me, wait till you get to the podium.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I didn't want to waste anyone's time if I don't have a right to speak, because I want to speak on a matter regarding when I was a resident. I've currently moved to Jefferson, but this matter would be in regards to something that occurred when I was a resident. So I don't know if I need to get on the agenda to discuss that, or if
I move we suspend the rules to allow him to speak.
Second.
All those in favor? This is regarding the sculpture down at the water.
Yes, I would like to.
Just a moment, please. We haven't completely voted.
I just got to, as a point of order, that voting to suspend the rules is one warrant.
Correct.
And I thought our rules that was approved last week didn't let us take up something that wasn't
On the agenda.
on the agenda. I
So
don't
at
have a
this-
problem with letting this gentleman speak, but
No, if I have to get
No,
on the
vote.
agenda for the next meeting, that's okay.
Well, I suggest you get on the agenda. I mean, I do have information here regarding this, but I suggest you get a hold of the town manager and get on our next meeting.
Okay.
Madam Chair, would you put that on the next agenda to discuss suspending the rules?
Yes, that will be also on there.
This board has had a long history of allowing people to stand up here and speak. It's unfortunate that this is happening tonight.
I agree, but
if I could, my point was, and I brought it up at the last meeting, was that when we put something like that in the rules, this is going to happen.
But if it is a rule, why does it have to be on the agenda?
Because the rule says it has to be on the agenda.
Well, all right, it's going to be on the next agenda.
the only other point that we can make in this situation is the fact that this public comment is for items that are not on the agenda. And this qualifies, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here.
Judy, did you have a vote?
No, I haven't voted yet.
Okay, I thought it was 4 and Bobby was 1.
No, I have not voted yet.
I certainly don't have a problem listening to this gentleman. I sat at water selectmen's meetings, and I never thought there should be a rule to prevent anybody from speaking.
Okay, so are we going to, does the majority of the board want to let the gentleman speak?
Yes.
Call for a vote.
All those in favor of letting him speak? Opposed?
I'm not going to vote on that because it's not on the agenda.
Okay. All right, you may speak.
Thank you. Yes, tonight I would like to just get the board's really side of the story for your prompt and hasty removal and destruction of my public sculpture that was at the recreational pier this summer.
Okay. You came before the board December 6th, 2016, requesting to put the sculpture on down at the waterfront. At that point in time, I moved to have you get in touch with Ben Averill, regarding the Historical Preservation Commission, if there was an issue there. You came back to the board on December 20th, and we had a memo from Ben saying that there was no issue and that you could put the sculpture up. When you came before us, you stated that it was going to be from May 1st to October 1st, 2017. On September 19th, during public comment, someone inquired about the removal of the Hesper sign at the waterfront because it was supposed to be taken down, and Marion was going to look into the matter. On October 3rd, 2017, under unfinished business, I said the Hesper sculpture at the pier was to be removed by October 1st, but is still in place. Catherine Martin Savage said she would take care of the issue. October 23rd, 2017, 20 days after the Board of Selectmen's meeting, Public Works Department removed the structure to the transfer station. No communication from Mr. Dalton, even after board member Martin Savage efforts to communicate with you. I think you, this is my opinion, you put us in a very bad position. The board is very concerned about putting things up, and we allow people to do it with the assumption that they remove it on the date that they say they will. You did not communicate with the town office nor the board for a reason why it wasn't done. So I feel it was in our right to remove it.
Yes, I can understand your position from there. Now, Miss Martin Savage did come to my place of employment and relayed a message to my employer. She didn't get in touch with me directly. And my employer told me that you guys were wondering when the sculpture was coming down. Then Ben Averill, who had been my liaison to the board and for the whole project, and he had all my personal info. He was who was communicating with the whole time. I emailed him on October 13th to give him a date of when it would come down. Now that message never came back to me saying, you know, this guy doesn't exist anymore.
Here.
Exactly. So that's a technical failure on the town's part to not have his email forwarded to anybody else.
I don't feel, my personal opinion, it's your responsibility to contact the town. If you heard nothing from Ben Averill, then you should have contacted the town manager to convey what your stance was on that sculpture. I'm sorry that it was removed and you're upset about it, but we have other people, like I said, that have put things up, whether it be on the town common, signs, or anything, and
Yes.
they've always been very good about taking them down.
I understand, and I think the October 1st comment, I may have been misquoted because the packet I gave to everyone on the board, which did also have my email address on it, and so I don't know if that packet got thrown away or I don't know if it was saved, but nobody communicated with me through my email. And if Ms. Martin Savage did know where I worked and could find me, if you guys had said it would have been removed and absolutely destroyed immediately, then I think it would have come down very quickly and removed it for you instead of having the town pay for the town works to remove it.
Does anybody else on the board have any comments regarding this item? Yes, Catherine?
I remembered going to his place of employment. I did not ask to speak to him because I know the people he works for would relay the message, and in that message, I told his employers that there was a time frame that he was supposed to have had this already down before I even went out there, and that time was passing by, and the road department had quite a bit of stuff they had to do on their own, getting ready for winter, et cetera, and I'm quite confident that that message was relayed, and I did stress the importance of getting it down as quickly as possible. I I didn't mention any dates because I didn't have any dates in my head at the time, but that's what happened, and I think it's your responsibility to follow up on
Yes,
all of this. We
I
don't
thought,
have
I
the
thought I was
time
following
to-
up.
We just don't have the time to, contact people if they're late or whatever, and I took it upon myself to volunteer to go out and pass on the word, and I had hoped that you would take care of it. And I feel badly that this has happened, I really do. But it's circumstances beyond our control.
Well, I think they were completely in your control to not take it to the transfer station at least immediately and have it disposed of. I don't think if it were a painting or if it were an antique table, I don't think you would have taken it to the transfer station.
We would have been removed.
Removed is one thing, taken directly to the dump isn't, the irony is absolutely fitting for the Hester, but
Well, I'm sorry, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but under the circumstances, we did what we felt was correct. And I have no problem with what we as a town has done.
I
It's
think
your
it was disrespectful.
responsibility.
It was hasty and absolutely disrespectful. I will be moving to reclaim the value of the sculpture, but I thank you guys for your time tonight and everybody here. So
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'm Keith Emig from the Wiscasset Bay Gallery and also a member of Citizens for Sensible Solutions. And I just wanted to make a brief announcement. The Deering family is sending out invitations this week to Wiscasset residents, inviting everyone to hear a presentation by TND traffic engineer, whom the Deering's commissioned to do a comprehensive traffic study. This is Rick Chelman. He's worked for 30 years as a civil engineer and traffic engineer. He's worked in New England, nationally and internationally on more than 200 projects. And he's taken a close look at the project that we're all sort of debating and working over here in Wiscasset to see if it's viable and if it makes sense for our town. And I won't go into any more details, but I just think, hope everyone can come out. It's Tuesday, December 12th at 7 p.m. That's this next Tuesday, December 12th at 7 p.m. We hope everyone can come out that's concerned about the DOT issue. Oh, I'm sorry, at the Wiscasset Community Center.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we will go on.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I just. Be very quick. I'm Ann Leslie, and I wanted to thank you for taking the action against MDOT, which I interpret as a way to stand up for Wiscasset's local ordinances and for Maine law. And I think we should just keep in mind that this option 2 debate has put us face to face with Maine's Sensible Transportation Policy Act, which is law, and it requires that MDOT be responsive to local citizens. And what we do in Wiscasset is really going to become a model for what happens in other Maine towns who might end up in a similar situation. So I just want to say thank you, and let's make sure that for our sake and also for the sake of other Maine towns and Maine citizens that MDOT follows the law. We shouldn't back down because this is bigger than us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ben.
Thank you. I wanted to respond to you, Pam.
Yes.
And I want to speak as a third place winner in the 1961 Wiscasset Public Library Summer Reading Program. I think all of us recognize the importance of the library, and what many of us tried to stress last week with the first budget was that we asked the manager to come up with $500,000 in cuts. And it was just a working document to start from. And we really have started with the budget a lot earlier because we really need to this year. And I said at the time, I don't believe there's a number on that page that's going to hold up, and I don't expect that it will. Just want you to know that.
Thank you. I appreciate, excuse me. I appreciate you keeping an open mind on the library and realizing what an important community center it has become to the people in town. And looking at the numbers year after year after year of what a strong majority vote has been held in favor of the library's budget, the taxpayers really are telling you that they want this to stay here. We've been 218 years in service, and librarians just want to serve. And we want to be able to serve for less and less money as we go forward, but we're not there yet. I really appreciate you staying open.
And
Thank
one
you.
more. Have you had any new copies of Wiscasset and Palmer Borough made yet?
No, we're going to have to send it out.
Okay, but that's an important book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else who has a comment before we go on? I don't see any, okay. We have nothing for department head, on unfinished business. Oh, this is a great one. Update on budget cuts.
So at your last meeting, one of the things that the board asked me to do was to look at the fixed costs. If you look at this document that's in your packet, it's labeled 9A. And what I did was I took the actual tax rate calculation form, and one of the things that I believe it was Ben asked me to do was to look at, and if you look on the back side, there are the fixed costs that I discussed with you that we don't have control over, the union contract wage increases, the health insurance increase, the water district rate increase, and our software increase that we use to register cars and et cetera. So those fixed costs came to $108,612. And one of the things that I was asked to do was to take last year's budget as it was approved and add that $108,000 to it. And if you notice in line 21, the minimum tax rate, if I did that, and understand there are many, many assumptions in this working document, that the county tax isn't going to change, that the school budget isn't going to increase, and that there's no change in the town's value. So I just want to stress that this is an exercise only. It's not hard and fast. So if you look at line 21, it's if you added the $108,000 with the budget flat like it was, except for these mandated changes, you'd be looking at a mill rate that went from 1876 to 1894, and that's less than a 1% increase. I think it's 0.94 something.
What was it, 1876 or what?
It's like on line 21, Ben, it tells you what the minimum, it's
Or 1894, yeah.
Yep.
And where was the other one, 18?
Well, 1876 is what you are
okay,
now.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and then attached to that document, I wanted to do this exercise for the board. It's a document that looks like this. It's the second page. And what I did was, I took the mill rates of the surrounding communities, Alma, Newcastle, Dresden, Edgecombe, Woolwich, and Westport Island. And what I did is I took a house value from 100,000 to 700,000 to show you what the taxes are in Wiscasset, and then what they would be in these other communities. And my point in doing this is to demonstrate to you something I think you already know. The Board of Selectmen have been very fiscally responsible with their budgets. And the taxpayers, as Pam said earlier, they continue to vote to support these budgets. So if you look at, and I'm just going to use this as an example, if you look at a $100,000 house, the taxes are $1,876. If you lived in Newcastle, you're going to pay $94 a year less. They don't have a full-time police department. They don't have full-time EMS. They don't have a library like we do. They don't have a police department. So I just want you to look at these towns and look at the services. Look at Edgecombe. Alma's mill rate is $20.45. The town of Wiscasset is $18.76. and I'm happy to share this with anybody that would like a copy, but my point is, and I'm not suggesting for a moment that we shouldn't be fiscally responsible and work to reduce our tax liability, but I continually hear how out of control Wiscasset's taxes are. And my point in this exercise was just to demonstrate to you that you're really, for the services and the amenities that you have in this community, you folks have done an amazing job of being fiscally responsible to be able to support these services with a mill rate of $18.76. So this is just for reference. I get asked the question all the time, well, if we move somewhere else, the taxes would be less. The only thing I would say is if we all move to Westport, they have a mill rate of $6.60. So I don't know if George would let us all in, but but I just want people to think and think about, you know, the good work that the Budget Committee has done, and the boards that sit here presently and the boards that have sat here before. Because I think when you look at this, and you look at, I mean, to give you an example, you drive across the bridge to the town of Edgecombe, and your taxes are not even going to be $200 less. You know, and we provide EMS service to Edgecombe. And I just think that this is a good document to reference when folks get talking to you about those types of things. So I hope that this document addresses your concerns. I labeled it on the bottom that it included the $108,612 increase. Understand I don't have, this is a working document. There could be other increases in budgets that are mandated that I'm not aware of yet. The leadership team for the town just received their budget sheets today, so they have not had an opportunity to get back to me with anything that they might have mandated. But you asked me to give it to you, and so I did.
Well, I appreciate that. It makes the outlook of this budget look a little bit sunnier than it was before.
I agree. I mean, that's an 18 cent per thousand increase.
But we still need to keep our noses to the grindstone.
We can't go extravagant, but at the same time, we can't start cutting a lot of the services, or we really have to look hard at the budget.
And this board has not said it was going to cut anything.
That's right. There's nothing that said that we're going to cut anything. But it was a good exercise. This was a very good exercise for the beginning of the budget process.
And we need to meet with the school board as quick as possible as part of the budget process.
Yes, I agree with you.
So would you like to meet, I'm happy to try to facilitate that. Do you want to do it before the Christmas holiday or after?
I would prefer in January myself. I'd like to get through the holidays. That's my...
The very first of the year.
The beginning of the year, but at least get through the holidays.
Okay. So, I just want to be clear that I gave you my best estimate of cuts, and it was $431,107. And Bobby was very kindly, tongue-in-cheek, said, Marion, that's not $500,000. So, but I believe that this was the best that I could do without doing real harm to a department. I don't plan to go any further unless the board directs me. Otherwise, I understand this was a helpful exercise to the board, but it was a painful exercise for the manager and the leadership team. So whatever you would like us to do, we will do.
Well, I think they're all good benchmarks to work from.
Yes. I think we have a good start at this point.
And we can massage this as it goes along.
That's correct.
Go from there.
Yes, Kim,
Just two quick questions,
please.
Kim Dolce. Two quick questions about the document that Marion just put together. One, did you say that anyone could get a copy of that?
Oh, sure.
Wonderful. I would love to have a copy. And two, when you are comparing Wiscasset to other towns, I know that you're comparing the mill rate, but I may not have the terminology correct, but I know that different towns use a different percentage of their assessment. And Wiscasset's is fairly high, I think it's 100%, and other towns base their taxes on a lower percentage of the assessment. Did you equalize for that?
I don't know anything about other towns assessing less than 100%. I did not do that exercise. All I did was take their mill rates. I know that they do declare to the state what percentage of their assessment to sale is, but also those towns then also adjust their homestead downward and all those other, I believe it's equalized by the time they're finished, but I'm not sure of that.
Okay.
But in any event, I did not do that.
Okay, just curious, and as I said, I don't even know the terminology that I
Well,
need.
you were pretty close, so, yeah.
Kim,
Thank you.
I'm happy to give this to whoever. The reason that you didn't have it in your documents was the assessor was just here yesterday, so I didn't have the opportunity to yesterday to work with him on this.
Yes, Tobin?
I just have a quick question as a department head. Are we moving forward with our operational budgets for next year's budget with the potential cut, like for my department, 66,000? Or are we looking at our operational budget as the director of EMS status quo? Because it really does affect how I'm going to look at my budget moving forward that's due in on the 20th of whether or not, am I cutting 66,000 or am I not cutting 66,000? Because it's confusing.
I
You can
personally,
cut 66,000, I just got it.
Well, if I'm cutting 66,000, that's cutting staffing.
I would say at this point, it's up to the manager and the department heads to put together the original budgets. If you put together an original budget and it looks like it's gonna go up 12 to 15%, then obviously we've got to look at it a little harder.
that's right.
But at this point, it's up to the manager and the department heads to see what you come up with. Right.
This selectman's not asking you to cut your budget. I'm not asking. I'd like to see you stay status quo with the 108 at this point. That's my opinion. I can't speak for the rest of the board.
Well, what isn't in this document is there's no, the amount of money to be moved out of surplus hasn't been put in here. We've moved a lot of money out of surplus last year. There's no money to move out of surplus this year. That's going to make a huge difference in this. You can put this all together, and this is what you might see as a mill rate, but we've got to subsidize it heavily to keep this mill rate there like we do every year. Your actual mill rate, I'm sure, is up in the 20s.
I calculated that very thing, Bob, thinking someone might ask that. So what I did was, I calculated it without the $500,000. I took that out of, if you look at that form that you have, that's line 13, other revenues, that's typically where you make your allocation for fund balance. And I took that out, and the minimum tax rate without that $500,000 would be $20. So you were right on. And that, that's with all of the other items staying as they are. So.
I guess I want that explained again. I thought you originally said the mill rate was only going up 0.18 with everything fixed in.
What I was asked to do was to just add the fixed cost with the same way that you calculated it last year. And that's what I did, with your same amount of revenues. So the revenues did not change, so that's what I did. And then there was another piece of the conversation where you said, well, what if you had nothing, zero? You didn't ask me to do it, but I did do it to see what that number was.
If we had no fund balance.
If you had no fund balance and you took nothing from reserves, like last year you took $500,000, the year before you took $650. So if you take zero, then your mill rate with the budgets as presented would be $20 per thousand.
20 even.
Roughly, yeah.
Oh, okay, that is the figure I was looking for.
Yeah.
Meaning that we wouldn't have any revenue at this point.
At this point.
I realize you have to work a lot of assumptions into it, but okay. Even that, percentage-wise, what is that?
Well, if you look at the total budget from last year, wouldn't you have to factor in that we subsidized this with $500,000 from the reserve account interest, and I don't remember exactly what the figure was, but it was close to $500,000 out of fund balance, which was money that came from the sale of the primary school and the existing fund balance, and we took, I think Jeff made the motion, we took a percent of it. Not that I disagreed with it.
We didn't take anything out of the reserve though, Bob.
No.
It was just the fund balance.
Just the fund balance.
We took money out of the reserves and put it, the reserve account interest, and applied it to the total budget.
I don't think so.
No, we applied it to capital.
No, the only thing that we did.
Well, that's part of the total budget.
The only thing that we offset the budget was with the fund balance.
Yeah.
There was no reserve interest or money or anything. We talked about doing that, but we did not.
But we took money from the interest and used it to buy stuff. That's part of the budget. I mean, you can go buy it and say it's not there, but it's there.
But what did we buy?
Made a payment on the pier debt.
That all came out of our, I see exactly what you're saying. We had a reserve account policy to spend of 400 and something.
I know all about it, but I'm
Okay.
just saying that's part of the total budget. When you look at what the town spends,
Gotcha.
it's part of the total budget.
You have got, I see exactly what you're saying.
But it's not part of what's calculated in the tax base. What comes out of capital is not raised and appropriated, it's only raised. So it's not part of your $5,093 municipal budget.
Right, but
It's
the
a
money
separate-
that we took out of the fund balance, we used to offset what would have to be raised in taxes.
Correct.
That's correct.
Right.
And there's, you've got to factor in that there's nothing there to move this year.
That's correct.
Right. Yes, Ben?
I appreciate this mill comparison with other towns, but I've got an idea, if you ask the residents of Alden, Newcastle, Dresden, and Isham, if they like their tax bills, they probably all say they were higher than they like them to be.
I've never met a happy taxpayer, so I think you're right.
Very good.
Any other questions regarding that subject? Okay, let's go on. Discussion regarding location of future voting. It was last discussed June 27th, 2017. Thank you.
Have a good night.
I can.
So you have a memo in your packet. This is one of the items that you had brought up before. The clerk prepared a memo to the board, just reminding you of all of these federal compliance things that may not have been in place at the time when you voted at this facility. And she also provided for your guidance only. Does not mean this is how we be set up here. That's why the big word example across the front of it here. And she just wanted to share that with you so that you can look at the distances as to how far the ballot box has to be from certain things, how far the accessible voting has to be. So just to give you an idea, she said that she can do an assessment of the building of this area. She'd actually have to take, measure it out to see if we can do all of these things to meet the federal government accessible voting laws and the compliance with Help America Vote Act. And she's happy to do that, but that's what she said to think about. One of the things that she mentioned was, that the folks that were the voters, if the weather was inclement, they'd be standing outside in inclement weather. And like she said, she'd be where it was warm and dry. So it would be up to you folks if you thought that was okay. She did comment on the lighting in the parking lot, and that the petitioners who now are allowed to be inside a covered building would have to be outside if we were to relocate it here. She said that she's pleased to do whatever you would like, and just provided this for your thoughts. So
I think that the vote should stay right at the community center.
I agree with you, John. Yes, Catherine?
I've been a ballot clerk for several years, and voter registration has increased, more people are voting. I wish more would vote, but if you look at this drawing that Linda's prepared and read her memo, there just isn't enough space in this room to make everything work, especially adding some of the technical stuff that has to be so many feet away from
Correct.
voters and for privacy purposes. So if we're going to take a vote, I'm leaving with the,
You know, I'm concerned about the lighting outside.
yeah.
It's not very well lit out, the parking lot. And I personally would rather stay at the community center. Do you need a vote or just a consensus?
This was an item that a board member wanted to discuss, so it's up to you. Take guidance from your lead, Bob, what do you were the one that wanted to talk about it.
Well, it was brought up after the vote, and, you know, there was a lot of concern at the time, and evidently there isn't quite so much now.
Yeah. Whatever you'd like us to do, we'll do. Linda said she's happy to measure up the building to see if it will work, and if you wanted to do that. Remember, the concern was that there were some folks behaving badly when voters were driving in, and some voters had come before the board, you're right, Bob, and spoke about how they felt harassed on their way into the community center. But I believe, as Susan had stated, that all she needs to do is be made aware of it, and she'll do what she needs to do, as the clerk said. But you're right, that we did have voters come and speak to that issue.
There was one year when I was working at the community center that Bob McDonald and I brought out a tape measure, and we marked it all the way out. It was when the Mason Station vote, and we told the people, we said, this is where you can stand. I took out some paint and just, you know, like spray, and that's where they stayed. So it's really easy to do. You can measure, you know what
Well,
I mean?
I don't think it was the measuring.
I think Susan told me how far they could be out, and then
250.
feet, and that's what we
I don't think it was the distance for the folks that came before the board. It was that they were stopping the cars on their way in and trying to hand them information
And they
through
do that
their
too,
window
right?
on the way through.
Yep.
That was what people were upset about. Because some folks were going to pick up children. They
Sure.
weren't going to vote and.
But they were really, I think if they go back to this spot that I'm thinking that they were at, it's way away. Do you know what I mean? It's just a suggestion.
Ben?
I have a lot of good memories of the old days when we used to vote here, and I wish that we could vote here again, but we're almost outgrowing it for a selectmen's meeting.
Correct.
I think it'd be, the very bottom thing here, she checked off sufficient number of voting booths. And I really think that's one of the reasons we did move. We just were running out of space in here, the booths themselves.
I believe that she said, and Susan would say if I've got the number wrong, for every 200 voters, you have to have a booth. I believe is what she showed me that the statute said.
I think that's it.
And so that's why you went to those booths that had several opportunities for folks to vote, because you didn't have enough room for the single voting. So consensus that you're happy with the information and leave it the way it is, or you'd like us to measure the room, what's the board's pleasure?
No, I shouldn't. Town clerk's done enough.
My consensus is leave it for where it is.
You just need a consensus, or do we
Yeah.
have to vote on it?
No, I don't think we need to vote, I think we just need a consensus.
And thank Linda for
Yes.
all her work.
All right, the next item is the town clock update, evaluation of clock tower damage. Go ahead.
So you have in your packet the report from Lincoln Haney Engineering. For those of you that have been in the community a long time, you'll remember they're the same folks that did the 1985 evaluation. So they are familiar with the structure. They did talk about some of the things that Ben and Bob mentioned at the last meeting. Their observations were that the water damage is evident, which you did discuss. There were pigeon carcasses in the cupola, a recent rainstorm resulted in framing members getting wet and puddles on the platform. I won't read the whole thing, but he came to the same conclusion as Bob and Ben did, is it needs to be fixed. He probably said it in a little more detail, but
I didn't see any carcasses.
So, he said that the built-up beams that support the cupola are badly decayed, which is something that both of you had mentioned. And said this condition should be addressed as soon as possible to prevent further damage. Under a heavy windstorm, the damaged beams would completely fail, jeopardizing the stability of the cupola. So, if we have any questions about this report, or if you'd like them to appear in person, they're pleased to do that. They did attach pictures similar to some of the ones that you had seen previously. So, what would you like to do next?
Well, we had a generous offer from a citizen who was willing to look into fixing that. We followed up on that at all?
If you're saying we as in the manager, no.
Well, speaking just we as in the manager, yes. Well, I think it's worth looking into.
Okay.
I certainly appreciate it.
I saw that gentleman somewhere, he said he wanted to know how things were going.
He's with us tonight.
Jason?
Yeah, the offer stands. I'll look at it, probably easy.
You can hook up with him and the caretaker so he can go and look at it.
Sure, yeah.
Just give me a call.
Thank you.
What do you want to say on TV, but let me have your number, Jason, so that I know how to reach you.
All right.
Otherwise you'll get all kinds of, opportunities
I have trouble like that.
to take a trip somewhere, So,
All right, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. New business. New business license application for John and Tammy Chapman, the Crack Day.
You may remember that the board just asked to be made aware of the new businesses. We wanted the opportunity to welcome them into town. They're going where the former Hunter Breakfast was. Many of you are familiar with Tammy. She's cooked in the area for a long, long time. I went to high school with her, so I've known her a few more years than some. Tammy and John are going to open the Crack Day. Looking forward to opening after the first of the year.
Good luck to them. That's awesome.
Very
Glad it's
good.
open at that
Thank
time.
you. Good luck. Next item, special town meeting, litigation costs.
So, the board had asked me to obtain from legal counsel what the cost from Murray Plum & Murray has been up to November 30th. And Peter sent the bill, and I'll read you what he said. We have reviewed our time charges for work done on the case with MDOT up to the end of November. We will be sending you a bill for work through November 30th in the amount of $16,021.80, including professional fees of $15,697.25 and out-of-pocket costs of $324.55. As a gesture to the town, the firm is discounting the hourly charges by 10% in the above computation. So his bill that we will have to pay is $16,021.80. On this same document, I did put on there what we have spent to date on Wawanock LLC versus MDOT with the town of Wiscasset as a party of interest. The initial filing was February 10th, 2017, and we have spent, as of November 16th, $31,183. So to date, as of 11/30, total litigation fees for this MDOT project total $47,204.80.
I might ask him, you, I believe, were the one who brought it to our attention that, of the lawsuit that took place back in February. I'm not sure whether you recommended we did it or not, but you brought it to our attention. And what is the standard practice regarding such things? you know, and having lawyers there.
Well, we were served by the court, so there's a legal requirement for us to respond to those pleadings. Anything much more than that then would be best directed to Peter, because I'm not an attorney, so I don't know when they haven't gone, well, he reviewed all of their work, so.
Well, okay, but
But
the 31,000 is to Bernstein Insurance. For their
for the
work.
9 months of work, yes.
Okay.
So-
I would ask them for the explanation, but, I mean, but it is your considered opinion that the board needed to have legal representation at those hearings.
Well, yes.
Okay.
We have to respond to those pleadings, yes. And what we have done, because I've shared the documents with you as they've come in, is we haven't done any more than we have to do because it wasn't truly our suit. If we had to attend and respond, we responded, but we kept it to a minimum.
Well, I think we did a due diligence. But that is a separate issue from Peter Murray.
Right, I was asked to put it all together for you and I did, so.
No, I appreciate that. As to where we are now, I'm going to make the motion that we pay for the $16,021.80 out of our contingent account.
I'll second that.
We're gonna have a discussion on that. I firmly do not believe we need to take it out of contingency. Contingency is for emergencies. This to me is not an emergency. I think if we're gonna spend $16,000, we need to go back to the taxpayers and let them vote as to whether they want to spend that $16,000. We have a couple people. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Jody Elbow. I'm a Wiscasset resident. I have a couple of questions for the board. The first one's for the board, and then the second one is for the 3 individuals who have, of the board members who decided to go forward with this lawsuit. First question, is there any kind of a contingency plan? Have you thought about anything? Should the Maine DOT require the town to pay for their legal fees if a judge rules in their favor? That's not uncommon. So have you thought about that? If we end up having to pick up the fees for the MDOT, where that's going to come from? My second question would be, and this one is for Bob Glagden and Catherine Martin Savage and Ben Rhines. What amount of money, taxpayer money, are you anticipating to have to allocate to this lawsuit? And at what point financially do you say enough? Enough, we can't do this anymore? Because you're talking about wanting to cut the budget and keeping the mill rates down. At what point? How much is that? How much? What kind of a dollar figure? I'd like to hear from each of you, and then I would like you to justify that dollar amount. How much are you willing to go? How much are we going to spend on this? Taxpayer money. Let's remember taxpayer money.
I don't have a problem responding to that. The taxpayers are going to decide, not the board of selectmen.
Well, you decided that we were going to go forward with it, and we got 16 grand we got to come up with now.
Well, we already owe that, but that's not a lawsuit. That is for the law firm to look at the case. And this also involves whether or not the state is going to adhere to the town ordinances. So there's actually 2 items that are part of this. But if the town proceeds with a lawsuit, it's going to be because the town voted to raise the money. And the town will have to decide if of course, certainly the figure is going to be something that would be recommended by the attorney based on the case. And that figure would be presented to the townspeople, and they would simple vote yes or no, rather to proceed. And that's where the money would come from, and that's where the figure would be decided. I'm not going to decide because I'm not a lawyer and I don't know how much it's going to cost. And the people will decide whether it's more than they want to spend, and if they do, then they won't raise the money.
I don't agree with your interpretation of things. To me, it is a question of whether or not we are going to uphold the wishes of the townspeople, and in this sense, the town ordinances, specifically the historic ordinance, which was passed overwhelmingly by the townspeople. And then just last month, Even though the Board of Selectmen urged that it's repealed, the townspeople voted again to keep that ordinance on the books. And it is our responsibility to see to it that those ordinances, the wishes of the townspeople, are upheld. Our attorney met with their attorney, and we were told that the state was not going to respect our town ordinances. It is our responsibility to uphold those laws, and I believe it was an emergency. As far as the contingent account goes, as long as I've been here, that is the discretion of the Board of Selectmen to use as they see fit.
And I agree with you. I'm giving you my opinion. I don't feel it's an emergency. I feel that this vote should go back to the townspeople. I may be the odd man out here. That's fine. I've been there before, and I can be there again.
I agree with you and Bob that going forward, any further expenses, we would have to go to the townspeople. But at the moment, Peter wants to meet with us Monday, so we hope we would learn more then. But I think it is incumbent upon us to uphold the ordinances of this town. And the Board of Selectmen always has upheld them. Over the years, this is expensive, but it's the state of Maine that is not honoring the ordinances of this town. When Judy Flanagan and Marion and I went up and met with them 2 years ago, in the course of the discussions, I don't know who brought it up, but we made a point of pointing out to them that the town in fact had an historic ordinance, something for them to be aware of. And it seems to me, when they made all their presentations, it would have been nice of them to let us know that they weren't going to respect those ordinances. I think they would have got a very different reception from the citizens of Wiscasset.
Good morning, Kennedy.
Please come up.
Can I just ask you a quick question? Marion, how long does it take to put a special to ask for the money from the town? How long does it?
We have to post it more in 7 days.
So in 2 weeks, we could have them vote for the money?
Yes. And remember that this amount of money, just, you're probably aware of this, but
It's
is to
just
what
the
he's
tip of
done
the
so
iceberg.
far.
Right.
And when we meet with him on Monday, that will be an additional bill. So I don't know then if you want to amend your motion that be included also, but I just wanted to point that out.
Well, I could.
Well, I'm just saying that we will have additional costs from.
But we will have a better idea come next Monday. It is conceivable that this board, I don't know what Peter's going to tell us.
No, none of us do.
So if we're going to go forward, yes, we need to have a town meeting, no question about it. If we don't go forward, for whatever reason, that's the end of it.
Is there a second to that motion?
Yes. Dan made the motion and Kathy seconded it.
Thank you.
Yes, Lonnie.
My comment's very simple. Two things. It seems like this board, and just about every board that I've been to select meetings upon, in the last number of years, seems to react to crisis instead of actually planning for the future. And one of the meetings a month ago, I asked the question, and I actually wrote a letter to the editor asking the question, if DOT pulls out of this project, where's the money going to come from to fix our downtown infrastructure? People are?
Yes,
Okay. Where is the money going to come from? What is the plan? And I haven't heard a single thing from you folks what the plan would be if that happens. So we will react to that crisis and create another crisis. This is what's happening right now. You're taking money out of the contingency fund to pay for a non-crisis item. What's your plan if a crisis happens that's not related to the DOT project? Where will the money come from? This is not a crisis. A crisis is a generator going down that could be life-saving. A crisis could be an ambulance that needs to be repaired or purchased that gets in an accident. A crisis is that. It's not man-made like this one.
Well,
My question is, what is your plan for a crisis? What is your plan if DOT pulls out to pay for the infrastructure? You can't kick the can down the road anymore. It is to forward down there. unsafe and deplorable. What is the plan? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Susie?
One of the places that we can find the money is through grants for historic preservation. That is one of the things that the Historic Preservation Commission will be looking into. And the grants are out there, the money is out there. Some of them are matching grants, some of them are here, do the job, you got it. That's one place we can get the money to repair our downtown street sidewalks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Yes, Stephen?
Seaver Leslie, from town, member of the Public Advisory Committee, MDOT Downtown Project. I disagree with the previous speaker. I think the crisis certainly is upon us if we're talking about the well-being of our businesses downtown. And I think that you all realize that and have moved forward very well. And I think it's really important that Wiscasset, Maine sets a precedent in this state for basically standing up for the importance of small businesses and the livelihood of these communities year-round, not just the 10 weeks of the summer. I commend you for your work and your efforts. This is very important, and the whole state is watching. I was in the State House last week, and people are very, very concerned and very interested in what's happening in Wisconsin. I understand that we voted $116,000 appropriated for contractual services in the budget.
Correct. Oh, that's a, I'm sorry, I thought you were making a statement. It's a question?
That's a question.
Yes.
Yes.
And $116,000.
And from that contractual services account, I believe, comes money for legal services.
25,000 of it, yes.
Yes, but there is other monies there, which the selectmen, I believe, it's legitimate for them to move this money as they see fit. And I think that that might be different than the contingency fund that Ben mentioned. But in any case, I don't want to argue with anybody. I'm just pointing that out. This is really important. This town take a stand and protect the livelihood of the people who are making a living here and working hard to do that. And we are, and the people are watching. And it's important that we stand up against the state, have them come to the table with us and do what's right for this town, for Wiscasset and the county. And I thank you for your stalwart effort on this.
Thank you.
Sherry Dunbar, Wiscasset. I agree with Seaver. Everyone is watching us, and not for good reason. It's kind of embarrassing. We've become the pettiest little village in Maine instead of the prettiest little village in Maine. And as I spoke last week, or the last selectmen's meeting, I'm very troubled by it. I went to the town clerk today to get some numbers. The vote on June 14, 2016, the town residents voted overwhelmingly in favor of option 2. 426 for option 2, 90 for option 1, 206 for option 3. On June 13, 2017, 400 voted to reject option 2, 323 voted in favor of it. When you look at those numbers, I find it hard to see how any of the selectmen could vote to go through with a lawsuit. A lawsuit that that over half of the taxpayers do not support. I mean, we're looking at possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars if we do go forward with this. Did you say, Marion, that that 16,000 was basically just to file the lawsuit?
It's for the services for the previous 2 weeks, and that did include the filing of the lawsuit.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're looking at ways to cut next year's budget, but we're not concerned about spending more money fighting a lawsuit that not half of the town supports.
I'm not sure I buy that interpretation. The townspeople.
Well, I'm just going by the numbers. I'm going by the numbers.
The townspeople also passed that historic ordinance, and they passed it twice. And we were told that there were individuals who were going to violate that ordinance. Do you think the townspeople passed those ordinances and then want us to just ignore them?
I think that the ordinance I think that people are looking at the ordinance as residential. I don't think it had anything to do with the DOT project. And I'm not going to try to interpret. It's not your job or my job to interpret what the voters voted for. I'm here to
Well,
ask.
somebody has to.
Really? Yeah. You have to interpret what they meant by that vote?
Well, what do you think that they meant? And first of all, what we're doing really has nothing to do with that project. We are this is to uphold the ordinances of the town as passed by the townspeople.
Well,
We don't pick and choose. I mean, this town has spent a lot of money over the years, whether it's this or land use or whatever. A lot of citizens have had to go to court and pay the price or whatever when they have been in violation of ordinances. We have, my God, we have planning board, we have appeals board, we have ordinance review, we have code enforcement. The citizens of Wiscasset have passed all of those. They take it very seriously, and they want us to uphold those. And that is all that we're asking. All the DOT, the state of Maine has to do is do the honorable thing and go through our process and make the application and go through it. And then it isn't even in our hands anymore.
So is it your job as a selectman to work in the town's best interest and to be fiscally responsible?
We try to be.
Okay, well, in my opinion, going through with a lawsuit that I don't believe half the town supports is not fiscally responsible.
And as I said, if we decide to go forward with it, the decision will rest with the townspeople.
I hope you do that. I hope you do put it up to townspeople, because I don't think that it's right that the select board make a decision like that. Even the 16,000 that's being taken out of contingency, I don't believe that that should be used for that. As other people have spoken, that is for an emergency, and I do not believe this is an emergency.
Well, that's fine, but you're also one of those who thought that the townspeople were wrong with their decision on the town planner. You've interpreted that one wrong.
It's not over.
It never is. It never is.
Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a Wiscasset resident, Wendy Ross. My question is, I keep hearing from different sides different things, and I want to know how many businesses oppose the DOT plan and how many businesses downtown approve. Does anybody have those figures?
Yes.
Can you say what they are?
24, the keeping of the parking, and 3 against.
That's not correct.
No, it's not.
It's
It's
way
26
off.
or
You see,
Those figures are in dispute, and
I have a map that I can share with you.
that map is incorrect.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, this is, I guess I'm pointing something out that everybody is getting so heated on both sides, and I think we need to try to find some unity, because it's getting bad in the town. I mean, you're good friends that I can't speak to because they're on the other side. And it's true, we are becoming the laughing stock of of Maine, I think, the article. So I think a way to solve it is have a vote. Have a vote on this lawsuit. It needs a vote, and a very straightforward vote, not a complicated way the question is asked, but very simply. Because sometimes these votes or questions are they're worded in such ways that you vote yes when you really wanted to vote no. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the table right now.
Excuse me, you never gave Catherine a chance to respond when she...
Oh, I'm sorry.
If she wanted to.
I just wanted to acknowledge the lady who spoke quite some time ago.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
That's all right. No, everybody was talking, and I can't really add anything more than what Ben and Bob have already stated. The wood crisis has come up a couple of times, and I think it is a bit of a crisis when so many business owners are thinking very seriously of packing up and moving out of town. Especially, I mean, many of them have been here longer than I've been here. And I've been here quite a while. And as far as DOT is concerned, if they need to hear, they listen, but they don't hear what is said. And they've always given the impression, at least from my point of view, that they're going to do what they want to do. They won't listen to anything, any negotiation, and I'm hoping that this may be the straw that will make them work with us. No one wants to fight, and I think we all, as citizens, and I know there are people on both sides of the fence, keep in mind common courtesy and some civility. There's no reason to yell and scream. We can all politely agree to disagree. Thank you.
Yes, Todd. I think Todd will be our last person. Thank you.
Nice to see you, Tom.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks. Through the town of Wiscasset. I'm thoroughly disappointed in the entire process. I feel like when we're talking about budgets, we should probably put another $100,000 in the fire department and get 2 more squads set up, because all we do is put out fires. We discussed the planner, we wanted to get in the RSU, it was the best thing since sliced bread, we voted to get out. We're still paying the school back for what we owe. We wanted the DOT project, we keep reacting to small groups, and that's their right to advocate for themselves, but we keep talking about the past and nobody's thinking about the future, and we're not planning, we don't have a plan or a plan. We keep talking about reactionary funding, about what the sources are, what's not. And I agree, what's the question for me is, how far is the board willing to go? Because I voted to keep the historical ordinance in, but not in the sense of spending $200,000 to not fight the downtown project. That wasn't mine, that's my own personal, it was about preservation of the town, but not for a specific topic. And that's why we have the process to go through, whether we go to the historical committee, put an application in, look for an abatement on the process, whether I want to put a metal roof or change what I want to do, keeping aesthetics. This is about the bigger picture, about how it affects the entire town, in the businesses throughout the Route 1 corridor, not just in the downtown. And I just think we're looking very short-sighted at what we're trying to do, because we're not planning what the cause and effects are. Nobody has a number, or nobody has a plan that says, okay, this is what our process is going to be. If this happens, we push the escape button. It's always, let's see, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? There's no plans written down, there's no processes, no procedures. There's no governance. It's just, we'll wait, we'll come back, we'll wait for a different group to come in, we'll argue about that for a week, and then we'll come back and hopefully something will change. And on both sides, for or against, people are just using it based on what they want to get out of it. It's not what they want to get out of it, it's what the majority, the 70% of the people that I think that I speak for, that represent the middle. What are we doing for them? And we're not, we're dangling on either side of the 15%. And so I ask you as the board is, when you go through Monday, come back with a plan. What are we going to talk about next week to say that, yes, I want to support putting money towards to shut this down, or no, I don't think it's the right thing. That's where you get the common stuff. These votes are, again, we get big numbers, Sherry gave us the numbers. We'll come back again. Another group will come back, we'll vote again, and we'll do something else. It's just a matter of time. I don't think we're moving forward.
Thank you, Todd. Yes, Bob?
If I could, I'd like to, I'm going to vote for this motion, and I'd like to not to explain why. I do think that we reacted to a little bit of an emergency, that the playing field might have changed dramatically if we hadn't stepped in when we did. The $16,000 isn't about the lawsuit. There isn't going to be any lawsuit unless the town votes to fund it. And it's clearly going to be a majority that's going to either vote yes to fund some sort of legal action, or no, we don't want to spend the money. So we hopefully, if we decided to put that question forward, would have enough information so people could make an intelligent decision. And keep in mind, there've been a couple votes, but none of them was about money. This one is going to be about money. And so people can vote. Do they want to spend the amount of money that would be part of the article for possible legal action, or do they not want to spend the money? And clearly, the Board of Selectmen is going to do what they're told by the taxpayers. We haven't gotten the clear mandate, I don't think, to really move forward. I mean, there's been two votes, which I guess you could argue probably one went one way and one went the other. But as I said, one of them was non-binding, and neither of them was about money. So I think that what we did was the right thing to keep that door open so that we could possibly proceed with a lawsuit if it looked like it would be beneficial. And then we would come before the town and argue why we thought it was beneficial. And if the taxpayers don't want to fund it, then they would vote no, and clearly that would be the end of it. It seemed like a small price to pay to keep that door open, to give the taxpayers an opportunity to make that decision. I mean, we've spent a huge amount of money on legal fees. The $31,000, it's not about the town fighting anybody, it's about the town defending itself. I mean, we spent $30,000 arguing about whether or not to do this lighting project at the school. And it looked like that was just totally wasted. You know, 15 to 16 for, 15 to 16 against, and the town people voted against it. It may happen anyway, I don't know. But that's what happens with legal fees. They just roll on and on and on. In this case, there is going to be a clear opportunity for the people to vote. And, you know, I would welcome the opportunity for the people to vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one more and that's it.
I just have a simple question. So you're going to meet with this attorney and he's going to project what this thing is going to cost?
Correct.
Because otherwise, I mean, that's a you better double that, whatever he says. Because I'm serious. There isn't an attorney that I've ever met that will say to you, it's going to be 20,000. It always turns out 40. If they say 100,000, it's going to be 200,000. So you've got to go to the town people and say, realistically, it's going to be this much money. Not, do you want to jump in or don't you? Because that's not giving the townspeople enough information to make a good decision. And that's, I mean, that's my frustration from outside. Now I live in Alma, but that's my frustration, is seeing everybody suffering and not knowing how much everything's going to cost.
Thank you.
Didn't we have this discussion at the beginning of this meeting about allowing people who are not residents or taxpayers?
You're correct.
So I would suggest
As
that...
a resident, may I be the last one to speak?
Yes, please, Kim. You're the last one.
Thank you.
Kim Dolce, Wiscasset resident. I would like to bring this back around to the meeting that you had, was it last week, with the budget committee. And I completely understand that the decisions that you're going to have to make, budgetary decisions, are difficult ones. But to say that this isn't a valid expenditure, to say that it isn't an emergency, I think is a mistake. I took offense recently when a Lincoln County planner called Wiscasset a pass-through town. And he seemed to imply that our sole purpose is to have people pass through to get to other places in the county. And that's not what we're here for. I mean, that's not what we're here for. We may not have the biggest attractions in the county or in the area, but we have our charms, and our charms, our history and our charm and our beautiful perch on the river is what brings people here.
I don't want to interrupt you, but
No,
you're getting beyond what we're discussing.
No, not really.
Yes.
Not really, because at the budget meeting, one of the things that you said is, what can we do to increase our revenue base? And you talked about the things that were important, like the library and like the community center. And one of the things that's important here is that as a small town, we are so lucky to be as vibrant as we are. There is like maybe one empty storefront. That's unusual in small town America. And if you don't defend the businesses, not just those businesses, but any future business in this town, by supporting the parking and fighting to keep that parking and fighting the state who wants to take it away, then those stores, the current ones, they're gonna close up. You're gonna have for lease signs, you're gonna have boarded up windows, and no one is going to come and invest in this town. Because then we will be a pass-through. This is a vital thing to do. And I hope you keep that in mind. Keep it in mind as an important budget item.
Thank you. I know we have a motion on the floor at this point, and I just want to bring up a thought. We are meeting with the lawyer on Monday with better direction as to where we are going. It's not like we've got to pay this $16,000 immediately. I'm wondering if maybe we should wait until after we have spoken to the attorney to find out what his opinion is, and depending on that, come back with a figure, one time only. I mean, it's not like we have to pay it immediately. We could pay it in 2 weeks.
We don't even have the bill.
Oh, that's right, we don't even have a bill yet. So instead of jumping the gun and taking it out of contingency, let's meet with the attorney, find out what he has found out, get the information from him so that we as a board can make a decision. If we have to go back to the town, then we go to the town for the money. The whole thing, one time only. Or we say, okay, we owe you $20,000 and we'll figure out where we're gonna get the $20,000. That's his bill. That's my suggestion.
I'll stick with my motion.
Okay, you wanna stick with the motion?
We owe the money.
We owe the money already, so
We haven't got the billing account.
We haven't got-
no, I know, but we will be owing it. We know what it is.
And we are gonna pay it.
Oh, I realize.
What
that.
Judy's saying is, instead of taking it out of contingency, finding out what the dollar amount is, taking it to the people and having a vote on it.
And then what do we do when we still owe them 16 grand plus and they say no?
Then
Hypothetical.
then it's an emergency?
Then it's an
And then you take it out of contingency. I disagree.
I still feel
It's not an
like that's
emergency
the
now.
motion.
It's not an emergency now.
All right,
Apparently, she wasn't a resident, I don't know, but I wanted to respond to those comments. That Peter Murray has worked for the town on and off now for 38 years. And if we meet with him Monday and he tells us that it's gonna be X amount to do whatever, you can take it to the bank if that's what it will be. He has treated us good over the years, which is why we went to him in the first place. Because he's above reproach, and I look forward to hearing what he has to say Monday. I don't know what he's going to say.
okay, we have a motion to take the $16,000, $21.80 from contingency. It's been moved in second. All those in favor? Opposed? It passes. Okay, the next item is the audit update. I have an email from Wyndham Brewer, the CPA, our auditor. He says, Marion, sorry for the delay in getting to work on this. I'm currently working on setting up the financial statements up and have some field work that needs to be done to get the audit work complete. I was wondering if I could come work on the audit next week at your office. As far as time goes, I hope to have more information for you when we are done next week in the field. So I'm assuming he's passing it on to January. Okay, just for info. So that will not be on our, we'll put that on the agenda for January.
Is there any chance that it would be done for our next meeting?
We could try.
I won't know, like you said, he won't know until.
If he's here next week.
Nope.
We could try and get it, but if we can't, let's do it the first week in January, if you can do it.
If nothing else, it would be very good to have a breakdown of the schools and what they have for money in their fund balances when we meet with the school board.
But haven't we already gotten the audit report from the school? Didn't we get that?
I think it was recently completed. I don't know that I have a copy of this year's, but I haven't asked for it either, so I can ask for it. I think they received theirs, within the last month or so. But
I thought they already gotten their audit report.
They do have it.
It's only a draft.
Oh, you want him to draft also? Do we have the same audit? No.
No.
But
Because I think they have like a 300 and some odd thousand fund balance, if I'm not mistaken, at this point.
But
I
the
thought.
school's figures will show up in our audit.
Yes, and that's part of what has to be tied in, so.
I mean, I had a lot of questions about
Yeah,
that.
but the information.
That amount of money sitting in our audit.
Yeah.
Okay, town manager's report.
So I have for you, we discussed the budget calendar, and what I have for you is just a draft. You don't have to take action on it tonight. The town clerk brought to my attention that some of the election rules had changed as to when absentee ballots have to be voted and all that. So she was kind enough to put those dates in there for me. So I do not have the date for the capital plan meeting, or if the board still wants to do the Saturday budget meeting with the budget committee and departments. So those two dates are still out there, but this is just the beginning guidance, what the calendar will look like. Town meeting is June 12th for 2018. So, and obviously this is a live document. When we sit down with the budget, we'll schedule the dates that you want to review it and fill those dates in. So I just wanted to bring this to you. So, and the only other thing I have is at our last meeting, sadly, Susan Blygan resigned her seat from Historic Preservation. And right after that, I received this email from Bob Fox, who's a Lincoln County planner. And it says, "Hi Marion, someone brought to my attention comments made by Susan Blygan at the last Selectmen's meeting. She said she was resigning from the Historic Preservation Commission in order to work with me to revise and update the Historic Preservation Ordinance. While I would be happy to work with the town on the ordinance and map, I can't do so under the funding arrangement. He needs money to do this." No, it's okay. So, it says, "With the most recent vote by the town to defund the planning position, I can't use the mix of funds to replace a town staff position. Again, he'd be happy to work with the town, but would need to identify a funding source that would work. So he asked me to come back to the town to know how we would like to address this situation." So I know Susan had every intention of volunteering her time very graciously.
He had told us that until we sorted out the town planner, that he was giving his time to us pro bono.
Right, and
apparently that's changed, so.
I think maybe because it's task specific is what I'm guessing. He's happy to support the boards, but so what I wanted to know from the board.
They said he's helped with,
okay.
Anyway,
Well,
whatever.
in any event, today he wants money, So what I wanted to know
Who doesn't?
from the board was, do you want to see some money in the budget committed to this project? Because we have talked about that the ordinance needs to be fine-tuned, and some of the board members have talked about it. And also, it raised a question for me that we've had before about providing a recording secretary for our other boards, the historic preservation. And would you like to see something in the budget to fund that position? And I'm only asking because I'm beginning to draft the budget, so I want to know what you would like to do.
Yeah.
How much does Mr. Fonts want? Did he come up with a figure?
He does not. He's just happy to work with the town for a fee.
And he calls us a pass-through town. Okay.
Yes, Bob.
Thanks, Judy. I would hope that our response, whatever it might be, might include pointing out that we're carrying Lincoln County. We've got all their non-taxable property here, their courthouse, their sheriff's department, their communication center, their jail, Saginaw County's jail too, no taxes, their planning office, their recycling, that's all in Wiscasset. It's not in Alner or Westport or Walnut. And, you know, I can't believe that they would pull the plug on helping us with some small thing.
Okay.
I agree.
So that's a zero funding allocation?
That would be for me, huh?
We pay a hefty county tax. It ought to include a little bit of work from the county planner.
Call Carrie Kipfer, she's the county administrator. Don't even bother with Mr. Fonts, always going to find out.
That's a good idea.
Yes, Susan.
Just since it's come up, I would really appreciate it, since there's been so much, and quote unquote, so many people unhappy with the ordinance. I would very much appreciate it if Catherine Martin Savage, Bob Blatton, Judy Colby, Ben Rhines, Jeff Slack, anybody who's sitting in this room, and any of your friends, neighbors, and your dog. Call me, I'm listed in the book. Email me, susan@wiscasset.net. Tell me what parts of the ordinance that some of you haven't even read you're worried about. I know you have, I said some of you. Because that will make going forward and getting the corrections, getting the easements that people want a lot simpler. So, just saying, I'm here, I'm their consultant thanks to your generosity.
Well, it's actually yours.
Wait till I start charging my consultancy time.
Thank you, Susan. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dick Zieg, resident. Would it be possible to opt in or opt out of this ordinance? As a resident or
No.
business?
Yes, Bob.
You had an opportunity at the last vote to either vote for it or against it. And the people voted, I won't say overwhelmingly, but certainly by a good majority to uphold the ordinance in its entirety. And I have read the ordinance. I actually specifically got a copy of it and read it, and there's a lot of things that I wouldn't agree with, but I'm not going to try to change it. I mean, the Board of Selectmen, previous board, put it on the warrant so that the people would have an opportunity to vote on it. A pretty clear yes or no vote, and it was a yes vote to uphold the ordinance. I mean, if the committee was to come in with a specific item to change, I would be willing to listen to it, but as far as trying to do a rewrite, I mean, the people just voted for it.
Thank you. Is that all you have? That's it. Okay. Other board business then? Yes,
One
Bob.
thing, I don't want this clock tower thing to get away. If after Jason has an opportunity to look at it, I would like to hear about it again, and so that there's an opportunity to discuss the course of action before it becomes a last minute thing.
Okay.
It gets fixed.
Yeah,
That sounds good, Bob.
I'll put it back for the next agenda.
Okay.
You got 2 weeks, Joseph.
All right.
Okay. Anything else from the board members? You have anything else? No sticky notes? Okay.
Please.
Sorry, Judy.
Oh,
He was,
if I could, one more thing. I don't know, I didn't want to interrupt you when you were discussing this budget calendar, but if I had an opportunity to have any input in this, I don't like the Saturday budget meeting where we sit down and go through 20 budgets all at once. I've done it that way and a couple other ways. Personally, I prefer addressing a couple budgets at a time, usually in an evening meeting. I just like that done, but I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you. Anybody else on the board? Okay. Assessor business. We have 2 abatements. Matthew Reed, map U02, lot 016 for $266.39. Ronald Woodside, map R04, lot 002-23 for $125.69. What's your pleasure?
I make a motion that we approve them both.
No, I'll second that.
Yes.
We do seem to get a lot of abatements lately. When are we due to revale by law, and should we be doing it anyways?
By law, you're not required to at this time because your ratios are still good. But my plan was, as we had talked about earlier, was to allocate some money every year for 4 years so that you could get enough money to do it. We do need to look at the downtown seriously. Those values from what the assessor has shared do need to be reviewed. So I think that would be the first area that we will start with.
Are they high or low?
Okay. All those in favor? 4-0?
I might follow.
5-0, I'm sorry.
Do you have any idea what revale would cost?
I don't right now, but I can find out. There are some communities in the area that have recently contracted for them, and I can find out the parcel price.
That would be good just to know the figure.
Sure.
Thank
If I remember correctly, the last one we had was what, $1 million?
300.
What?
300,000.
300,000? All right, so we are done. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
I don't know.
Meeting's over.